Hello and welcome back. The show has returned, Sig Daddy's Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Skylar Sig Daddy Sigmund. I apologize for the about 3-month-long hiatus. It was unplanned. Didn't mean to do that, but I'm happy to be back. And I've got a special guest. Actually, this might be a recurring guest here moving forward on the show. He might just become part of the show. It's my friend Jeremy. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
All right, no problem, man. And coming up throughout this month, leading up to WrestleMania, I'll be doing a WrestleMania review every single week. So this week, we're taking a look back at WrestleMania 24. Next week, it'll be a look back at the first WrestleMania ever, WrestleMania 1. Back on March 31st, I think 1985, if I'm correct. But looking forward to that. But more importantly, looking forward to this WrestleMania 24 review. Jeremy, I know we talk about wrestling all the time, like all the time. And this was an era that this was an era where my fandom actually returned. Like, this is the first WrestleMania since I came back as a fan. What was this for you?
I would agree. This WrestleMania definitely took place during my peak interest in wrestling. I remember asking my dad, I was like, "Dad, can you buy me this pay-per-view?" Because this was before, of course, the network. This is before online. So there was no way for me to watch it. I didn't even have a computer, so I couldn't even watch it unless my dad bought the pay-per-view. And ultimately, he didn't, which really sucked. So I just had to wait until Monday Night Raw to watch the recap, see everything that happened during it. But this was definitely during the peak of my interest of WWE.
Yeah, and it was, we'll get into it later, but this was a WrestleMania. This was an underrated WrestleMania. I don't think this one gets talked about enough.
I would agree. Of course, there's the matches everyone always talks about, but even the ones that kind of slid or hit under the radar were pretty good. Again, yeah, we'll talk about it later, but I think some of the other ones, the Finlay versus JBL was low-key pretty nice.
Yeah, we'll get into that here in just a second. But yeah, it was it took place in the Citrus Bowl in Orlando, Florida, WrestleMania 24, March 30th, 2008. That was 13 years ago. I was in sixth. We were in 6th grade then, to give people perspective. But we get the fly over to start. The theme song for this one, gosh, it's a fantastic theme, to be honest. Lighted up by Rev Theory. And then also as another theme was Snow, Hey-O by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. But and on John Legend did America the Beautiful. The tagline for this one was the biggest WrestleMania under the sun, the first outdoor WrestleMania since WrestleMania 9. And we get to start this thing, kick-ass video package. I'll give, even though WWE does lack in places at times, they always nail it with the video packages, no matter what.
Absolutely, 100%. And the best part about the video packages, besides like their good editing, the good effects, is this was a long time ago, so I needed a refresher of what some of the storylines going into these matches were. And besides the research I did, these video packages were great in helping remind me, like, oh yeah, that's what's going on. That's why they're feuding. This happened during this feud. All the video packages were awesome for that.
And also, the tagline was the biggest WrestleMania under the sun. This was the first outdoor WrestleMania since WrestleMania 9. And then ever since we
pulled this one out.
Yeah, this is that buy rate I mentioned earlier. I think it was 1 million was it 580,000? No, 1,058,000 buys, which was the 5th highest in WrestleMania history. Highest was at WrestleMania 28, which was understandably a pretty darn good WrestleMania. But we start out the show. Before the show, it was a pre-show battle royal where Kane wins, and he's going to challenge for the ECW title later in the night. But we kick off things proper with Finlay with Hornswoggle in his corner, taking on JBL in a Belfast brawl. And the storyline leading into this was Mr. McMahon was they revealed back in I think 2007, later 2007, that Hornswoggle was Vince McMahon's bastard son, and that was a big flop. I remember it was supposed to be Mr. Kennedy, and something happened there that just kind of screwed things up.
That was once I remember what the storyline going in was wow, this is insane. I cannot believe even back in that day they were still trying to pull off storylines like that. And I do remember it was supposed Mr. Kennedy, which probably would have made the feud a little better. But going with the whole illegitimate son angle, because it worked so good, it just blew my mind. Like, wow, this is really how people are feuding now. I just wasn't a fan of the storyline.
Yeah, neither was I heading into it. So they show the video package. Mr. McMahon's supposed to fight his bastard son, Hornswoggle, inside a steel cage. And then he gets in the cage, and Hornswoggle gets whipped by the belt by Vince. McMahon leaves the ring. Finlay's handcuffed to the ropes. JBL throws him into the cage, brutalizes him, hits him with the fallaway slam. McMahon wants an apology from JBL the following week and gets it, but he's sorry he didn't do it sooner. And then JBL reveals, it's a big bombshell that Hornswoggle was not Vince McMahon's son. It's Finlay's son. But back into the match, they go 8 minutes and 35 seconds. Honestly, they beat the living crap out of each other in this match. Trash can lids, everything, you name it. They hit each other with it in the freaking head.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I was actually surprised to see way back when, like, some of the headshots and head chair shots that they were still allowing. It was like, man, that's insane compared to what now. But that was definitely one of my positives out of this match. Absolute carnage, and it was good. Like, it almost made me forget about the reason why they were wrestling in the first place, but it was a good carnage. Good match.
And these guys were like two of the stiffest workers you could see, like stiffest workers around, because Finlay, he didn't hold back. JBL for sure didn't hold back.
Oh no.
JBL, they both hit each other with trash cans. Finlay at one time gets the shillelagh and knocks JBL out of the ring. And JBL during the match throws trash cans and stuff at Hornswoggle. And
oh yeah, I saw that was almost so uncalled for. He was literally just standing there watching, and JBL just out of nowhere just chucks as hard as he can a trash can at the poor man. That definitely caught me by surprise.
Yeah, the kind of the turning point in the match was the crescendo, I'll say. Finlay goes for the suicide dive. JBL hits him with a trash can lid in the head, and then JBL throws the trash can lids outside the ring and hits Swoggle. Then a trash can to the head of Finlay. JBL goes for the clothesline. Trash can to JBL by Finlay. Counters. Then Finlay counters. Finlay with repeated trash can lid shots to the head. Hits the roll through fireman's carry. Then throws JBL through the table set up in the corner. That gets a near fall. And then Finlay grabs the steps. JBL with a kendo stick knocks Finlay down. He goes face first into the trash can. Not trash can, but the steel steps. And then JBL hits the brutal clothesline from hell for the victory at 8 minutes and 35 seconds. And yeah, this is just I thought this was a really fun opener. I thought it was kind of an odd choice for the opener a little bit. I was like, this is kind of a weird choice. Well, especially with the match that follows it, I just thought it was kind of weird. I don't know. I'll give the match a B grade. Thought it was a really fun brawl, fun opener. But I thought it was kind of odd booking choice here with JBL winning, but I think it ended up leading into a fatal four-way at Backlash, if I remember correctly, with Triple H ends up winning the WWE title. But still, I thought it was kind of weird. It did give JBL some more heat, though. But I'll give it a B. What say you?
You gave it a B. I was actually pretty close. I don't know how compared to your rating system is, but I gave it a C plus.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, again, my positives, good carnage. And you mentioned the runtime. I didn't think it ran too long. Didn't feel it was too short. I think it was just the right amount of carnage and the right amount of time. I do agree. Well, actually, no, I disagree with JBL winning. Sometimes I like the bad guys winning. Because it can get boring if the good guys always win. So it was kind of to see the bad guys win, and it definitely would it definitely helped prolong the story for a little bit because I also didn't remember what it led up to. But overall, C+.
All right, not bad. After that, we head backstage and we go to our special guest hostess, Kim Kardashian. Weird time.
Man.
And guess what? The Keeping Up with the Kardashians is ending. And this was probably during its like beginnings, I think. But she's backstage explaining the upcoming Money in the Bank match. Mr. Kennedy interrupts, saying he's going to do it again and become the first person ever to win 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches. This is just a weird time, isn't it?
It was. I thought it was like, Kim Kardashian, what? But I had to think about when I saw her, I was like, why is she here? But then I had to think about why WrestleMania was so successful in the beginning. And if you go back to WrestleMania 1, that's what Vince did. He was able to get the public's attention to WrestleMania, to WWE by incorporating all these celebrities, these pop culture figures. And it made sense because I think you were right. Kim Kardashian was probably at her peak in fame, I'll say, during this. So business standpoint, it makes sense to have her. And I had the same thought every time I saw John Legend and Snoop Dogg in there because it makes sense.
Yeah, and we see celebrities involved in wrestling today all the time. I actually have the WrestleMania 1 poster I got for Christmas right in front of me, and it says on here, special guests, Liberace, Billy Martin, and Muhammad Ali. So that's kind of what it's been incorporated ever since the first WrestleMania, like you said. So coming up next, the Money in the Bank ladder match. So I got to go over some notes on this one, but in this match, it's WWE Tag Team Champion John Morrison, who is tagging with The Miz at the time. Crazy how things stay the same now.
Right.
They're back together. Carlito, he's in the match. He just was at the Royal Rumble here not too long ago. Shelton Benjamin, Raw Tag Team Champion currently. CM Punk, Mr. Kennedy, U.S. Champion, MVP, and Chris Jericho. So the one guy we're not including in this match right now, we're not mentioning, is Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy was a scratch from this match, due in major part to violating the wellness policy for the second time. He failed it later in 2007. He did it early on in 2008. WWE.com reported on March 11th, 2008, that Hardy had been suspended for 60 days due to his second violation of the substance abuse and drug testing policy. He then lost his Intercontinental Championship, I think, that day to Chris Jericho. And Hardy was then removed from the match. And then that changed. I think it changed this match immensely. It changed the whole dynamic because you look at Hardy coming into this. He's got he's in the Royal Rumble, not the Royal Rumble, but he's on a freaking roll coming towards WrestleMania. He beats Triple H to become the #1 contender at Armageddon for the WWE Championship. He has a really good match with Randy Orton in a losing effort at the Royal Rumble for the WWE Championship. He is the final 2 in the Elimination Chamber at No Way Out. He's the last one eliminated by Triple H. This just seemed that this Jeff Hardy arc was setting up for him to win Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 24. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. You can't, looking back at everything you just said, you can't look at that and think, oh wow, they are not pushing him. Like, no, you see everything they did. If he was still in that match, and with everything you just listed, it would be a given that he was going to win. Like, I would have bet all the money I had at the time, even though I was in 6th grade, which would have probably been like $30. I would have bet all the money I had that Jeff Hardy was going to win that if he was still in it.
Yeah, I just thought the same thing because I'm like, he was on such a freaking roll at that point, but then he violates the wellness policy, gets suspended for 60 days. That changes things entirely. He's actually not, like, I think a couple days later, his house burns down. He was having a really bad time at that point. He was having a really rough go of things at the time, but it ended up setting up for somebody else to have a big, successful run. But this match this match moved at 100 miles per hour. This Money in the Bank ladder match, everything was moving super fast. I've watched this many times before. I owned the DVD prior to having the WWE Network, but I was watching this at the beginning. I'm like, holy crap, they're moving super fast, because I didn't realize the Morrison moonsault spot where he does the moonsault with the ladder was like 2 minutes into the freaking match.
Neither did I. Like I said, it's an iconic moment. Anytime there's a video package for Money in the Bank or even WrestleMania or even WWE, you'll see that spot, like him doing the moonsault with the ladder, because it's a nice spot. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I thought that was like halfway through the match, not in the beginning.
Yeah, it was like literally 2 minutes in the match, because early on, I think MVP was kind of holding the ring down and just kind of hitting people with the ladder and just knocking people out. But yeah, Morrison hits the moonsault off the ladder. At one point, we get a freaking Walls of Jericho on the ladder. Morrison's one that has to take that spot from Jericho, which is horrible. Another point is Shelton Benjamin. He's on top. This has got to be one of the worst bumps I've seen in a ladder match, because Benjamin, he is hoping that he freaking hits this ladder, honestly, because he's at the top of the ladder, and I think it's Carlito and Mr. Kennedy that are at the ends of the ladder, and they tip it forward. Benjamin does a freaking somersault, goes through the ladder, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did he not freaking die?
Right? And my favorite part about seeing that spot, again, another one you see all the time, was it was just Carlito and Kennedy just looking down at Shelton Benjamin to make sure they didn't just kill one of their coworkers.
Yeah, you see Carlito, in the match, he has his like jaw on the floor. He's like,
yeah, basically,
like, what just happened? Is he dead? Somebody please check on him, please. But yeah, this is just a fast and furious match. Kennedy, I think, had it at one point, if I remember correct. He had the chance. Actually, yeah, I think he had a chance at one point. Actually, it was Carlito. Never mind. Carlito was the one at the top of the ladder by himself at like later on in the match, but he decides to stand backwards of all things to try to grab the briefcase. Kennedy pushes him off the ladder, and that's sitting into the corner. Nasty looking spot. Carlito also hit a freaking backstabber off the ladder during this match as well. Ugh, it was a rough looking spot as well. But Kennedy climbs, Punk knocks him off. It's Jericho and Punk left standing. Punk grabs a ladder, code breaker with the ladder by Jericho. Gosh, it's 13 years ago, Jericho's killing it. Now he's still killing it.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. But we have Jericho at the top, grabbing at the briefcase. He sees Punk, tries to kick him off, yelling at him to stay down. Punk fires back with kicks and punches. Jericho swings the briefcase. Then Jericho hits Punk in the face with it, knocks him down a few pegs. But then Punk, I love the finish of this match, honestly. Punk grabs the leg of Jericho, pulls it between the rungs, and hangs him in the tree of woe, which gives Punk the opening to grab the briefcase and win at 13 minutes and 55 seconds. I really enjoyed this Money in the Bank ladder match. I don't think it's talked about that much, because honestly, we've seen 3,000 Money in the Bank ladder matches since its iteration since the first time it happened at WrestleMania 21 in 2005. But I thought this was a pretty solid Money in the Bank ladder match, honestly. What do you say?
I would agree. It was definitely, like I said, fast-paced. Everyone really gave it their all. There were a few spots where I think they kind of took too long to set up some of the spots. Mm-hmm. One that jumps out to me was Jericho stuck a ladder in a ladder, so it was like standing upright, and then Morrison, jumped up to try to climb it. Like, I couldn't help but notice that Jericho and I think maybe Carlito were there, and you could tell they were also kind of just trying to hold it in place. Mm-hmm. Like, if it was just maybe a little faster, it wouldn't have caught my eye, but that was one thing I kind of noticed.
And honestly, in this match, I thought Morrison was the one that stole the show here. I thought he was the star of the match. I don't know what do you think?
I would say either Morrison or Shelton Benjamin.
Well, Shelton Benjamin always steals the show in the ladder matches. He's always been good in those matches, but yeah, it could have been. So we look back. Punk wins it. I don't think Punk would have ever gotten his big run if Hardy would have been taken out of the match. If Hardy wouldn't have been taken out of the match, who knows what history looks like.
Yeah, it's crazy to think what could have been. Like, I mean, we don't know for sure if he wouldn't have still gotten over as much as he did without this, but because of this, he got shot straight to the moon because after he won that Money in the Bank.
And then he ends up becoming the first 2-time winner, which is kind of funny. I'm going to give this match a B+. What are you going to give it, Jo?
I actually gave it a B.
Still, it was pretty solid. Other than that, we're going to look back at the Meltzer star ratings at the end of this, and we'll talk about it. We'll kind of see if it's agreeable, if we agree with it or not. Meltzer he's a very controversial figure in the wrestling universe. It's very subjective. His star ratings are very subjective, but I give it a B+. Jeremy, Jo, he's going to give it a B. And then we cut to the 3 competitors in the back for the WWE Championship triple threat. Then we get the Hall of Fame class introduced. And the first one is the legendary wrestling personality, actually wrestling commentator, Gordon Solie, Eddie Graham, Florida Championship Wrestling promoter and booker, Jack and Jerry Briscoe, Mae Young, Soul Man Rocky Johnson, High Chief Peter Maivia. And so what I do remember about the Hall of Fame ceremony that year, that was the year The Rock took a shot at John Cena, which kind of planted the seeds for later on. He took a shot at his movie The Marine.
I mean, to be fair, it's probably an easy shot. I've seen the movie. It's not really Oscar. It's not going to win any Oscars when it first came out. I was remember thinking that.
But you look at some of the Rock's earlier movies, he's in the Tooth Fairy, so we
Fair point.
We got to look at that too. But during this Hall of Fame, kind of we see everybody on the stage. We see Charlotte out there, which is crazy to think that this is the future. That it's like, oh, she's going to be she's going to be one of the biggest stars in women's wrestling history.
I thought the exact same thing when camera panned over to her. I had to pause. I was like, wait a minute, is that Charlotte? Like, she looks so different than she does now. But again, that was years ago. But it's crazy to think that girl sitting there would be one of the best women wrestlers of today, maybe even of all time.
Yeah. And then we get Todd Grisham backstage. Remember Todd Grisham? Todd Grisham, of all people. Then we get Snoop Dogg. He's the master of ceremonies. He's talking about how he's enjoying his time at Mania. Then he found a person that he has a lot in common with. It's Festus. If you remember him, he's kind of the hillbilly.
I do remember Festus. Yep.
He's always in a lull, but it's a Luke Gallows, which is crazy to think what his character transformation went from 2008 to now. But Santino comes in, interrupts him, calls him brain damage, tells him if he doesn't, tells Snoop not to pull off any funny business during the Playboy match later on. Then Snoop gets out a ring bell, rings it, and then if you remember right, Festus, if that ring bell goes off, Festus gets in a rage, and then he ends up chasing Santino. And then Grisham asks how he got a bell, and then told him he knows a friend, and it's Mick Fizzle shows up, Mick Foley. And then we get a Mr. Sock Mizzle. I thought this was a really fun, that was not offensive at all moment backstage. I thought it was pretty funny.
Oh, I thought it was pretty funny too. Like, I do remember Festus, and when Snoop was talking and he was reaching behind the pillows, I knew immediately what he was going to go for, because I do remember Festus, and it was always the bell, that he wouldn't do anything until the bell went off. So it was nice to see that again and to remember that.
And then we get the SmackDown versus Raw battle for brand supremacy. I wish they would bring this match back, honestly. I thought it was a nice little thing when they did, when they had the SmackDown versus Raw video games. But
right.
we get Regal for the GM of Raw, and then SmackDown assistant GM at the time, Teddy Long. And the match, it's Batista of SmackDown taking on Umaga of Raw. And I always love the way William Regal announces Umaga's name. Umanga!
I don't think anyone really ever wanted to tell him that he was kind of pronouncing it wrong, so they just rolled with it.
But it was his English accent, so that really got in the way of it. But I always found it freaking hilarious. I love William Regal. Doesn't get enough respect and enough love, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I would agree.
we get the match. It's not really all that great. It goes about 7 minutes or so. Batista comes out dominating. Then Umaga gets in control after, I think it was a spin kick or something, I think. Yeah, it was a spinning heel kick or whatever. Leaping, spinning heel kick. He gets control. Umaga controls the match for about 5 minutes, almost the whole 5 or 6 minutes of the match before Batista moves on a splash attempt by Umaga in the corner. Umaga hits his head on the post. Batista hits the spine buster. Batista fires up. Batista then goes for the Batista bomb. And this is a scary looking Batista bomb spot, honestly, because Umaga's momentum coming up when I think Umaga pushed off Batista's legs, his momentum came flying up because just how big Umaga is.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of man to try to get up into a Batista bomb.
But Batista does recover barely, hits the Batista bomb, falling backwards, and that's enough for the 3 count and the win at 7 minutes and 6 seconds. This match was not, honestly, I thought they could have done a lot better.
I would agree. I saw the match. It was good. Batista and Umaga are always good at in-ring performers. Nothing too special about it. Like, I wouldn't have been too upset if they decided to cut it out of the card, but it was all right.
It just got Batista and Umaga on the card. Batista's one of the biggest stars at the time there, but
yeah,
Umaga criminally underrated. I didn't think this was all that great. I thought they did some nice they had some nice psychology there with the lower back work. But it was like literally it was just okay, Umaga gets heat for 5 minutes and then Batista hits 2 moves and wins. That was pretty much the match.
Right.
And I also felt like some of it was cut out because we have the next match. Actually, I felt like some of it got cut out due to this match, due to the Ric Flair match coming up later on. I think some of it got cut out, honestly.
I could see that. I mean, if you had to ask me which one I'd have to change between Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair or Batista versus Umaga, I'd probably have to go with Batista versus Umaga.
Yeah, of course. So, okay, I'm going to give this match a C. What say you, Jo?
B minus.
B minus. You're going to give it a B minus. I was on a point of looking at C plus range. I just thought they didn't have enough time, honestly. And then after that, we had JR and King discussing the no DQ, no count out. Must be a winner match where it's Floyd Mayweather taking on Big Show later in the night. We get the tail of the tape, which the size differential is absolutely enormous in that. I'm not going to go over the size because if you know anything about Floyd Mayweather, he is super tiny. And if you know anything about Big Show, he's gigantic.
Well said.
And
I was say Mayweather is probably about the size as I am, so yeah, no need to talk about that.
And what's your thought? I just kind of want to go off topic here for a second. What's your thoughts on Paul White to AEW?
I think if he still has some left in him, I don't know what capacity he's going to be with in AEW.
He's going to be in commentary on their new show, Dark Elevation. He's going to be doing some color commentary, and I think he's also going to be doing some in-ring work too. He's going to wrestle a little bit.
I'd say I bet there's still a lot of passion that Paul White has for it. So I'd say why not? Why not keep going with it?
Yeah.
One thing I will say though is I did see his shirt, the No More BS, and I think that is genius.
That was great.
I love that.
That was great marketing on their part.
That is amazing. I saw that. It was like, that's amazing.
It has double meanings. It has double meanings.
Yes.
No more bull, you know what, and no more Big Show. Which I was like,
yeah.
Wow. It took me a second. It took me a second to wrap my head around it. I'm like, wait a minute, that's freaking awesome.
It's amazing. It was amazing. I saw the videos and the shirts. Like that's amazing. But yeah, I think ultimately it's a good move for him.
And it kind of brings it back home to TNT.
Because
that's where he got his start, was on TNT with Nitro. So
WCW. Yeah.
After that,
yeah, I'm excited to hear.
Me too. I am as well. I think he's going to be a good addition to the company. He's got a lot of experience, ton of experience, and they added a Christian Cage as well. which I thought that was a good get. People get a little bit disappointed about that. That we're going off on a little tangent here, but people get a little offended about Christian Cage being the big reveal for AEW, but people got their expectations way too high. If you're thinking it's Lesnar or Punk, you're out of your freaking mind anyway. This is a huge get.
I'm with you there 100%. Like, it's fun to speculate and to think, but you have to, stay in the realm of possibility. Like, not for a single second, I think it was going to be Lesnar. I probably thought Punk had a better chance than Lesnar, but I definitely didn't think it was going to be CM Punk.
And yeah, I thought Christian is underrated as all can be. He is probably one of the most underrated guys. He doesn't get talked about near enough. He doesn't get the respect Edge gets because he's kind of like the Matt Hardy to Jeff Hardy in a way.
That's the perfect way to put that. That is the perfect way to put that.
And honestly, I think Christian's a better worker than Matt is, of course. But it's just, he's kind of the guy in the background. But Christian, he is so good he can do everything, literally do everything. But he kind of just hides in Edge's shadow. But I think they're teasing a Christian Omega match here soon. Christian Cage, Kenny Omega match. So I'm all for it. I'm excited for it. Happy Christian got cleared because I hate when wrestlers get their careers ended not on their own terms.
Oh yeah, there's no worse feeling than knowing you still got some more left in you, but you just can't, or at least they won't let you.
But AEW has utilized their legends pretty well so far, including Sting. But that's a topic for another time. We'll get into that some other time. But after the Batista Umaga match, we get Chavo Guerrero defending the ECW World Championship against Kane. And Joey Styles and Taz are the commentators for this match. I like this commentary combo. We get Chavo, who has a 67-day reign up until this point. And then we get the footage showing Kane winning a pre-show battle royal to qualify for this match. Armando Estrada is the ECW GM doing the ring announcing. We get Kane's fire going off. Chavo's in the ring already. Chavo's like, he thought Kane was going to come through the entrance ramp. No, Kane comes from underneath the ring, goes into the ring. And Chavo's kind of shocked when Kane shows up. The bell rings. He runs right into a choke slam. And Kane's your new ECW champion in about 8 seconds. And I'm not going to give this match a grade. I just think it was kind of a waste of time, in all honesty. If they were going to do this, I understand why they did this with Kane, because honestly, Chavo's not going to believably beat Kane.
I mean, yeah, but if you didn't think Chavo had a chance of beating Kane, why make it Kane? Like, at least maybe they could have at least booked it differently. Because you talked about you weren't going to give it a grade, so I guess I could give my grade. I gave it an F.
Yeah. I would have gave it an F too. I just didn't grade it because I'm like, it's 11 seconds long.
Right. For a championship match, it's just you wasted time, and it's the ECW belt. You got to think about some of the people who used to hold that belt, and yeah, I was not a fan.
And that ECW relaunch was a fail from the start because it killed everything that was unique about ECW back in the day. It really did. And it just turned into, honestly, by the end of it, it just turned into what NXT is today.
Yeah, I'd say just worse.
Yeah, it was not good. It was not good. And then I remember the one thing I took note of in this match was not anything about the match really other than the choke slam and the too short to give it a grade. Yeah, but that Kane's theme that time, Slow Chemical by Finger 11. That's an underrated theme.
That is a good theme, yeah.
I hated when they went to that Demon King Kane theme. I'm like, you got to keep it with Slow Chemical because that's much better theme, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree. Out of the two the two that I remember the most, definitely the one he used.
Mm-hmm. We're backstage, and not backstage, but it's a commercial that plays It's Carlito with Maria talking about Santino and how she could do better. Then Carlito gets attacked by a seagull. And Carlito freaking at the end of this dang commercial, he mounts the bird and just pounds it to death. And then Carlito says, "I can make your dreams come true." And then the bird takes the proverbial dump on him. I like that they did these commercials back then. They don't really do those now.
Yeah, I don't think they do either. It's been a while since they've just poked fun at either themselves or just let the lighter side of their superstars show. But yeah, it was a nice little. I got a nice little chuckle out of it.
And then we get Raven Simone. She's in the ring talking about how excited she was talking about Make-A-Wish, the biggest fulfillment of all time at the time. 50 kids from 50 states. You love to see that. And Raven Simone at the time is like, oh, that's so Raven at the time. I think that was still going on at that point, if I remember correct. It was an all right show. I never really got into it.
Oh, really?
You liked it?
I did. I was a big fan. Like I said, this was a blast from the past. I did not remember she made an appearance, so it was nice seeing her. It's just every time I see something like this, it just shows how a lot of these matches, a lot of these pay-per-views are just products of their time. Having Kim Kardashian, Snoop Dogg, Raven Simone, people at their peaks in their careers, like showing up. But it was nice to see her.
Yeah. And following that, we get the big match. I think the biggest match of the night, the best match of the night. It's Ric Flair taking on HBK in a career-threatening match. So the lead up to this one is HBK announcing Flair as the first inductee in the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2008. The song "Leave the Memories Alone" plays in the background with the Flair highlight package. It'll make you tear up every time. But Flair in that video says he'll never retire. Vince says that he can't lose. This was announced back on the November 26th Raw. Flair, he has to win every match, otherwise he will retire. But Flair at one point says only one thing can make Ric Flair's career even bigger would be to wrestle the man whose name is synonymous with WrestleMania. And that's Shawn Michaels. And at first, Shawn's reluctant at this. And then Flair says if he can't compete with the best, he doesn't want to keep going. And then Shawn says he'll give him everything he needs. But then we get the old Yeller line. And he talks about when it was time, they had to take him to the back and finish him, take him to the woodshed and put him out of his misery. And Flair, he absolutely loses it here. He gets angry, slapping HBK in the face, saying, "You got old Yeller." Boom, slap. It is so, Flair is like super passionate at this. And then that's kind of the end of the video almost. There's like a few more seconds in the video, then it closes out. And then we get Mike Adamle backstage with Ric Flair, and Adamle asks him the question, "What's your game plan?" And Flair just gives one of his one-liners, "To be the man." Couldn't have put it better.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think. We're watching this match back. It's 2008. Flair is 59 years old at this point. 59.
59, and he's still out there doing his thing.
Dude, killed it. Honestly, they start in the match early on. They end up fighting in the corner at one point. They do some mat wrestling, fight in the corner, and there's kind of just shoving match, kind of shoving each other in the chest. And HBK gives Flair one of the biggest slaps I've ever seen in my life, which busts Ric Flair's mouth open during this. But this match is everything you possibly could want in a wrestling match. It has the drama, it has everything you possibly want. But at one point, HBK goes for the crossbody off the top rope, and he does that. Then Flair throws him off like he would usually get thrown off. And then Flair actually hits the crossbody, which he never, ever hit when he went up to the top rope. That was kind of cool to see at that point, honestly.
Oh, yeah. Because every time I was watching this, I had to look it up. It's like, how old was Ric Flair during this? And when I saw, I was like, man, he is giving his all for where he is at his age. It was insane to see some of the moves he was still trying to do.
Doing. Yeah.
And yeah, like you mentioned, the crossbody, like it was crazy to think about.
Because he's went for that spot nearly 1,000 times, and he never hits that. And but then we get, at one point, it's the big turning point of this match, one of the big turning points. So HBK knocks Flair out of the ring with then he hits a baseball slide drop kick. Goes for the springboard moonsault. Flair freaking moves, and HBK literally goes rib first into the announce table. And the announce table doesn't break initially. And this just looked awful. Like, I don't know how HBK was even breathing during this match, because he ate everything on that announce table with his ribs.
That was a rough bump. That definitely was a rough bump.
I don't even know how he finished the match, because honestly, I've been like, all right, I'm out, because I can't even breathe during this, but he kills it. But they go back in the ring at one point. HBK, I'm going in a little more depth on this match because it was such an epic match, in all honesty. But HBK goes inside the ring. He hits the elbow drop. Then he goes for the sweet chin music, but he makes the big mistake of hesitating. And then he hesitated, and Flair took him down and locked in the figure 4 leg lock. Flair gets this on multiple times throughout the match. Like, I think he got it at one point, and then but HBK later on would lock in a figure 4 on him, and Flair would also hit all of his signature stuff in this match when not Flair, but HBK picked him up from behind one time. Flair kicks him in the nuts as he's grabbing the referee. He gets the thumb of the eye. HBK though does get a inverted figure 4 at one point. I didn't really like that submission, in all honesty. I think he should have stuck with the sharpshooter, because I think that looked a lot better than that inverted figure 4.
Oh, the sharpshooter definitely looks a lot better.
But I know Brett and him were not on very good terms at that point still. But eventually, after the thumb to the eye by Ric Flair, they get a roll up for a 2 count. They trade chops on their knees. They get to their feet eventually. HBK hits the sweet chin music for the second time out of nowhere. HBK slides his way towards the corner, goes to tune up the band, decides against it. And then HBK, he's very emotional. He's very distraught at this point, practically crying, but Flair's up. He's got his fist up and he's crying. Then we get the infamous, sorry. I'm sorry. I love you line. And it gets you every time. And then HBK follows it up with the third sweet chin music. I forgot to mention the first sweet chin music, but everyone knows there was like 3 sweet chin musics in this match. But he hits the third sweet chin music, and that ends it at 20 minutes and 23 seconds. And we'll get into this later with Dave Meltzer's star rating. I don't think this match gets enough love, because it just doesn't get enough love. Everything in this match was great. You get the storytelling, you get the selling by HBK. HBK sells stuff like it's death. Everything I think in this match is like just great. Flair goes out fighting, at least for a couple of years. But I thought this is the perfect send-off, honestly.
Oh, I would agree. And you're talking about the storytelling. Like, one of the spots that jumps out to me is, you talked about it, goes for the sweet chin music, and he hesitates. Like, when in the beginning, before he wanted to even take the match, he said it didn't want to be him. But he was reluctant, decided to take it, and both gave it his all. And you're talking about the send-off, class act by HBK to, even though he's the one who won, gets out of the ring as soon as he can so Ric Flair could have his moment. Pans to everyone there who's probably crying, and then his family who's definitely crying, and you see Charlotte Flair again. It was great.
After the match, we talk about that. Michaels has a moment with Flair in the ring, walks away. Flair gives HBK his moment. Not Flair gives HBK, but HBK gives Flair his moment. He embraces his family. And you look at this. You look at HBK's track record at WrestleMania. It is freaking insane. There is a reason why he's called Mr. WrestleMania. And this 100%. Is the reason why. So for Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Match of the Year, HBK won 7 straight PWI Match of the Year awards from 2004 all the way to 2010.
Sheesh.
Yeah,
well-earned name.
Yeah, it is. It's ridiculous. HBK, and then he's also won 11 Match of the Year awards total, and I think he won 4 straight in like the 90s. So he is Mr. WrestleMania, and I don't think anyone's honestly going to ever take that title away from him, because it's going to be very hard to do that with his kind of track record he had at that show.
See, I can't think of anyone now who's coming even close.
No one will ever do it. I don't think anyone's capable. I don't know if anyone's capable of doing it, really, because from an in-ring standpoint, Michaels is the best. Michaels is the best. I don't know if I'd say the best, but he is arguably, it could be an argument placed for him being the best in-ring worker ever, period. Because he has everything down. He's got the charisma. He's got everything. He's got the whole pack. Michaels had the whole package, but he killed it here. I'm going to give this match, HBK Flair, I'm going to give it an A+. Honestly, I couldn't say enough about it. Enough good things about it. It's just great. You have to go out of your way to watch this, honestly.
See, I gave an A+ too.
It's just a must watch if you're a wrestling fan. Everything is great about it. And yeah, definitely if you're going to watch WrestleMania 24 back, this is the one of the two matches that I think you should go back and watch. But we head back to Grisham backstage in the back with Edge. Edge cuts a really good promo here. He talks about, we just saw history. More history will be made tonight. He sets the stage, talking about sitting in the audience at WrestleMania 6, where his childhood hero, Hulk Hogan, is taking on the Ultimate Warrior. And Hogan lost that night. And he also lost his innocence on that night. And he says it really came full circle, and people rely on Undertaker winning at Mania every year. And tonight, fans get slapped in the face with a cold, hard dose of reality. And he's going to pluck away another child's innocence tonight. This is peak Edge for sure.
100%. That was a great promo. Perfect Edge promo. The villain, like, that's such a villainous thing to say. You're gonna take a child's innocence away? Like, what kind of person wants to do that?
Yeah, he's like total douche. He's a total douche at this point.
Edge is the person who wants to do that. But
Edge, yeah, that was a great promo there. They follow it up with the Playboy Bunny Mania Lumberjill match. Beth Phoenix and Melina, accompanied by Santino Marella, taking on the Playboy cover girls, Ashley and Maria. Ashley was the Playboy cover girl back in 2007. Maria was the cover girl back in 2008. Snoop Dogg is the master of ceremonies. He rolls out in a Mercedes-Benz golf cart with Lumberjills in tow.
Nice drive.
Yeah, it was. I'll give him credit. And I got to talk about this WrestleMania stage for a moment. This is one of the best WrestleMania stages I've seen.
I would think so too. I think 30s is probably still my favorite, but this was a good one.
It was huge too. Like how tall it was. It was insane how tall it was. But these girls in this match, the women, get about 5 minutes and 56 seconds. This is pretty sloppy for the most part. Closing sequence. There's a crossbody off the middle rope by Maria. Beth counters a punch, goes for the glam slam. I don't think he was even called the glam slam at the time. It's a very slow counter into a bulldog. That gets a near fall. Beth spears Melina off the apron. Crossbody off the apron to Melina by Ashley. Then a top rope dive into a bulldog by Maria. Maria goes for the cover. Santino pulls Maria's leg out. And then Lawler, he's done. He's had it with Santino. So he goes out and punches Santino in the face. Maria, that distracts Maria. Beth hits Maria from behind, then hits a Fisherman's Buster to win the match for Phoenix and Melina at 5 minutes and 56 seconds. This was kind of like a bathroom break match, as people would call it typically.
Right, a nice little palate cleanser, because after the Flair and Michaels match,
The
you
crowd's
got something to
exhausted.
crowd's exhausted. Got to give them a moment to breathe, or like you said, go to the bathroom because they probably didn't want to during that match.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, because they went like 20 or so minutes during the Flair Michaels match. But I thought this was kind of a hot mess. But I didn't stay over. It didn't overstay its welcome. I was going to give it a D grade.
Yeah, I give it a C minus.
We're not too far off on that, but
Right.
Santino post-match stays in the ring taunting Maria. Then Snoop clothesline Santino. Snoop gave a good clothesline there, I thought. And then
He did.
Snoop then helps Maria up and they kiss, which is incredibly weird. I don't think it was necessary at all. It just felt kind of weird.
I didn't know at the time, but I forgot Santino used to be a heel. The only Santino I remember was the funny one with the Cobra. And I actually really liked the Lawler bit, because it was fun to see him come out. Like, you could hearing him on the mic. He's like, I'm getting tired of this. Watch this, JR. And the camera just pans over and you see him and just walks over and clocks Santino. I thought it was a pretty good spot. It was the most interesting part of that.
Yeah, I think that's when
and
the crowd.
that's
when the crowd got most excited.
Yeah, it was. Just a random thing about it is that I forgot that match was on the card, but I forgot there was a power outage during that match.
I was going to mention that. It was weird. That was probably the most, because they ended up having to turn like some special light on to get the match I don't know, not back on the air, but some light back into the ring. It was just kind of weird there, but
I had to double check with it because from what I saw, none of the I guess they were still divas at the time, didn't really react to it. They just kept wrestling. So I was like, was this supposed to happen? And I really liked Lawler's comment because the commentary team played it off really well. They were joking like, is the Undertaker coming? Like, what's going on here?
Imagine that. Imagine the Undertaker coming out during the match. It's like, all right.
Enough of this.
Yeah, double choke slam. Boom. Delivering tombstones. Oh my gosh. Imagine that. That would have been hilarious.
And that changed my grade from a C minus to like at least a B plus.
I give it an A plus because I'd be sports entertained as a Mr. Simon Miller on What Culture would call it, but it is a triple threat match coming up next for the WWE Championship. John Cena, Triple H, and Randy Orton. So story going into this. Triple H misses last year's WrestleMania with a blown out quad. Cena, I think, if I remember correct, tore his pec in October or September, October. Orton gets awarded the title back then. And then Cena comes back in the Rumble, like the most shocking return in a Rumble I think I've ever seen. He wins it with which was one of the best surprise entries you'll ever see in the Royal Rumble. Triple H wins.
I was gonna say just a great pop when Cena returned. It's something I rewatch on occasion every now and then, just because it's just so amazing.
But the funny thing is about that, when you watch that back though, Cena gets a pop initially. They're like, "Oh yeah, Cena's back," and then they're like, "Wait a minute, we're not supposed to like this guy. We hate this guy." And then he gets booed when he wins the Royal Rumble, which is kind of weird. But Triple H wins the chamber, so it makes it a triple threat because I think John Cena did he decided to use his opportunity at No Way Out against Orton for the WWE Championship. It ends in a DQ. And then we get the triple threat at Mania. Orton, like I said, wins the title at No Mercy in October. Triple H wins it from him that night, defends it against Umaga, then loses it to Orton in the main event in the last man standing match. So Orton has had a pretty long reign at this point. So October all the way to April. And this Orton's not even in his 30s yet. He's in his later 20s at this point, and he is
He looks so young watching that match back.
It's insane. And then he's only one of these three that are really active anymore. But
oh yeah, out of the three.
Yeah, Orton's in an interesting storyline with Bray Wyatt right now, but we get the marching band playing Cena in, which is pretty dope, I think. Cena does the hang loose taunt there instead of the kind of the AOK signal, AOK taunt. They started using, I think, about a year and a half or so later. But we also get the mobile vote results. You remember this kind of stuff?
I've had the exact same thought. Like, man, hearing JR talk about text this numbers, message and data rates may apply. Man, that was funny to hear because these days you don't see that at all anymore. Of course, with social media, they're gonna post it on Twitter or something, then you can just do it from there. So it was definitely funny to see something like that again.
It's just so weird seeing that. And you look at the poll, the final results of the poll, it's pretty lopsided. Cena wins with a 52% vote. Triple H second and 40%. But Randy Orton gets 8%, 8% vote here, which is absolutely hilarious. But Orton, he comes out. He still has his "Burning in My Light" theme song, which he absolutely hated. He's admitted he absolutely hated that song. I love the song.
I like the one he uses now better, I'll admit, but it wasn't a bad one. I don't know why he would straight up hate it, but I like the one he uses now.
I just think he didn't like the "Hey, nothing you can say." He just hate. I don't think it was kind of an annoying chorus to some people. I didn't think it was, but we get the triple threat match with Orton, Triple H, and Cena, and I thought this was a pretty fun match. I thought it was pretty fun. It sticks to the formula of triple threat matches where it's mainly just two people fighting while one's outside of the ring. Did you notice that as well?
Oh, I definitely did. Like, even starting off, Orton immediately grabs the belt, hits Triple H with it, puts him out of commission for a few minutes so Orton and Cena can go at it, and then they usually just take turns of who's the one who's out of the ring and who the two that are in the ring.
Yeah.
But it definitely was a victim of that.
Yeah, I thought that was too. It was just kind of the typical triple threat fodder. Orton hits an RKO on Triple H at one time, but before that, actually, Orton was going for the RKO. Cena countered it. I thought this was a really cool counter where Cena drops Orton on Triple H with an elbow. Right. I thought that was one of the cooler. I've never seen that counter until now, but I haven't seen that counter since then. That's the only time I've ever seen that counter.
And not a lot of people were even able to counter the RKO, so it was definitely nice to see.
But yeah, Triple H eventually hits an RKO. Cena locks in the STFU on Orton. I'm going to call it the STFU. I'm not going to call it the STF. I'm going by the original names because I like the original names a lot better than the names they use now for them. But Triple H gets Orton's hand to the rope. Triple H breaks it. And we see an Indian deathlock in this match, which we never see. Cena ends up breaking it, though, whips Triple H out of the ring. Another STFU by Cena. I like this kind of portion of the match where Cena gets in the STFU, but Triple H breaks, then locks in a crossface.
Crossface, yeah. I like that, too. It looked cool. My favorite moments were when the three, I guess the exact opposite of what a triple threat formula is when all three were involved. And I guess you could technically say Orton was involved in that, even though he was just on the ground after getting out of the STFU. But no, that was definitely one of my favorite moments of that too.
And I also like the double draping DDT spot they did, the double hangman's DDT by Orton. I like that spot as well. After that STFU, vintage Orton, very vintage Randy Orton. But Cena eventually gets the rope on the crossface. Cena and Triple H trade rights. Triple H gets the better of it. Shoulder block clothesline. Patented slam as a patented a suplex, spin around suplex move. And then the 5-knuckle shuffle. Then Cena goes for the after you. Triple H counters, pedigree attempt. That counter. Triple H countered STFU attempt. Then Triple H hits the face buster. Hits the good old double A spine buster. Chop blocks Orton on the apron. Cena then goes for the FU. Triple H hits the pedigree. Orton recovers, punts Triple H as Triple H is covering Cena, which I love the finish of that. I love the finish of Triple H hitting the pedigree, going for the cover, and then Orton comes running in and freaking punts Triple H's head off. And Orton ends up retaining at 14 minutes and 9 seconds. You like the finish?
I did like the finish. The punt's probably one of my favorite moves. So simple. They protect the hell out of it. Even to this day, they do. But I really did like the finish. Kind of like it came out of nowhere. Like you almost believed that Triple H he just did enough to keep Orton out of the ring. And of course he hits the pedigree. So, Triple H is going to win. But then out of nowhere, just strikes with the punt and then gets the dub.
Pretty much steals it. He pretty much steals it there. And I thought this was, I said this was formulaic, but I thought this was a pretty good triple threat. And they had some cool sequences, the DDT, the STFU, and crossface. And I absolutely love the finish, which I think it earns the higher grade for me at this point. I was going to give it a B+.
I gave mine an A.
You gave it an A? Thought it was pretty good?
Yeah, one of the spots you didn't mention was, I think it was John Cena on top of Triple H, but then Orton with the crossbody.
Yep, I like that spot as well.
Again, just the moments that it's a triple threat. Get everyone. There's 3 people in the ring. Let's get them all involved on occasion. And that was another one. All 3 were involved and made for a nice spot.
And then we get the Floyd Mayweather versus Big Show. No DQ match. And Big Show, he had been gone for about a year or so. And he attacked Rey Mysterio at No Way Out after his World Heavyweight title match against Edge. And Mayweather then shows up. Big Show, this is in Vegas. Big Show shows up, is on one knee, and Mayweather then breaks his nose, which pretty much is the story heading into this. And then what I didn't realize watching this back. So you see Mayweather's crew coming in, but do you notice this man? Future Nexus member, Michael Tarver. He's one of the bodyguards for Mayweather. He had the black sweatshirt on with the blue lettering. That was Michael Tarver. Oh,
I definitely remember seeing that during the match, but I didn't know that was him. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was sitting there watching it back. I realized I watched it. And I'm like, I think that's Tarver. I'm like, oh my gosh, it is. I can't believe it. But we look at this match. We watch it back. Big Show does a pretty good. I think Mayweather, in all honesty, does a really good job for his limitations in this. He does a fantastic job.
I would agree. Amazing job. One thing that jumped out to me was he was able to sell. He sold a lot of Big Show's offense really, really well. And I thought it looked good. It looked like he's been he wasn't like a pro at it by any means, but he looked really good. Like it was believable.
Yeah, I thought that's what I noticed as well. I was like, wow, Mayweather did really good in this. And the one thing I'll take away later in the match, Big Show was working the left hand during the match. Mayweather at the end of the match completely ignored that. You notice that. But Big Show was the face in this match and Mayweather was the heel. I was like, you watch this match back and you're kind of confused. It's who's the face, who's the heel?
Well, when I first thing I noticed was as soon as Mayweather came out, I could barely hear Lillian Garcia announcing him because he had so much heat as soon as he stepped out onto the ramp. Mm-hmm. So a chorus of boos. Like I could barely hear Lillian Garcia. So I was like, okay, I guess Big Show's the face in this one, at least to the fan.
Yeah, it was weird seeing that because Big Show beat up Rey Mysterio, who's the super baby face at No Way Out, which made no sense to me at all.
Yeah, I mean, the fans, there's a lot of the times when WWE tells who the good guy, who the bad guy is, but ultimately I think the fans are able to decide who they see as who, and I think they really chose Big Show.
Well, the crowd was going like crazy for Big Show.
Right, yeah, they booed the hell out of Mayweather, but Big Show, he got a pretty good ovation. I guess it was more of since Big Show's from their world, like WWE Universe, like the fans, so they were gonna boo the outsider, of course.
And yeah, well, we watch this match. Mayweather's guys get involved multiple times. Mayweather at one point's drinking out of a dang chalice. And Big Show laid some of these dudes out, like laid these dudes out completely. But eventually Mayweather gets yanked out of the ring. And the manager's like, for Mayweather's like, we out. We are gone. So Big Show chases him down and then walks Mayweather back towards the ring, clubs the back of Mayweather, back in the ring. They're back in the ring. Big Show knocks out one of Mayweather's bodyguards. This is when he started using the KO punch. And then the chair shot to the back of Big Show. He doesn't like that. Choke slam to that guy. Then a chair shot to the chest and the back of Big Show by Mayweather. He goes for the head. Show counters. He goes for the choke slam, but a big low blow from Mayweather. Then we get the unprotected chair shots we talked about earlier. The 3 unprotected chair shots to Big Show's head, which is just weird seeing that now. But after that, yeah, it's a much different time. Mayweather gets the brass knucks and then knocks Big Show out. Scott Armstrong does the 10 count for boxing, and Big Show, he's unable to beat the 10 count, and Big Show is the winner at 11 minutes. And not Big Show, but Mayweather is the winner at 11 minutes and 36 seconds. Mayweather's limitations in this match, we already knew about him. He's a boxer, but he did a fantastic job knowing his limitations. His selling for the match was great up until later on when he didn't sell the left hand that was injured. But for the most part, he did a wonderful job. I'm going to give this match a B. What are your thoughts?
I also gave it a B. And the finish I thought was good. It was believable. Because I don't think if they set it up where he got just a clean hit without the brass knuckles, I don't think I would have believed it. That yeah, he's a professional boxer, pound for pound, world's best, but still like 5'8", 150 pounds. I don't think even with his punching power at that time, he'd knock out someone like Big Show. So I think the addition of the brass knuckles was a really good finish.
Yeah, I thought so as well. And after that, we get the Mania commercial where Batista steals this man's girl that he proposed to. Then we get Justin Roberts introducing Kim Kardashian. Then Kardashian announces the attendance, 74,635. That's always disputed. And then we get our big main event. So Edge versus The Undertaker. Edge defending his World Heavyweight Championship against Taker. This is the marketing for this match is Undertaker's 15-0 versus Edge's 5-0, even though he does technically have a loss at WrestleMania. They just don't acknowledge it. But Edge, back in 2007, cashed in the Money in the Bank where he won from Ken Kennedy. He cashed in on Taker after a post-match attack by Mark Henry. And then later on, Edge, at Survivor Series, Edge cost Undertaker inside Hell in a Cell, posing as a cameraman. He ends up winning the title in the triple threat at Armageddon. And then Edge has held it ever since. So he's held it for about 3 months, a little over 3 months at this point. We see Undertaker tombstoning Vicky, putting her in her wheelchair. And looking back at this storyline, this is a great build-up to the WrestleMania main event.
Yeah, this is my favorite match on the card, and that coming from probably my favorite feud of that year. It was great. Like, I almost forgot that Edge and Vicky were a thing, and that relationship was involved a lot heavily into that feud.
Yeah, and it was the main thing. It was the main story, pairing on SmackDown was Vicky and Edge. You saw them all the time on SmackDown back in 2007 and 2008. This rivalry didn't even stop at WrestleMania. This rivalry went all the way through SummerSlam in 2008. But we get to the match, and
yeah, it was a long one, but a good one.
It was 24. They go 24 minutes. They go over 24 minutes approximately. Actually, about 24 minutes approximately. But really, this match has almost everything you want similar to the HBK Flair match earlier on in the night. But the storytelling in this is just wonderful because they have so many different callbacks to different things that happened in the past with them. One of them being the camera spot where Edge hits him with the camera. The other being Hawkins and Ryder getting involved because that's how Edge kind of initially won the title at Armageddon that year. There was a lot of different story arcs that worked into it. The drama build up towards the end of the match was just freaking fantastic because Edge seemed to have a counter for everything Undertaker did.
Every move, almost every move.
That was one cool storytelling bit they had for this was Edge literally was countering everything. He seemed to have Undertaker's number throughout this match because Old School gets countered multiple times. Chokeslam gets countered multiple times. The Last Ride gets countered at one point. But then we get Taker finally hitting a Last Ride later in the match. Edge kicks out at the last second. Then we get the throat slash. Goes for the tombstone. Edge counters. Edge-o-matic for a near fall. Irish whip counter by Taker into a big boot. Finally hits Old School. Edge hits a DDT, reverse DDT after taking out the official. After Taker accidentally takes out the official. And Taker goozles him as Edge is talking trash. Low blow by Edge. We get the camera shot that's shades of the Survivor Series from that year. Then Edge blasts him in the head with it. The official then does fall out of the ring. Taker sits up. Edge with the throat slash. Edge goes for the tombstone. Taker counters into the tombstone. He covers, but there's no official. We get the most epic sprint up the ramp in WrestleMania history. It is the greatest sprint up the ramp in WrestleMania history because Charles Robinson is on his freaking horse getting to that ring. And that ramp is probably 80 yards or so long. But he is on his horse. He gets in the ring. 1, 2, the literal last possible second. Edge kicks out. And then Edge... Yeah, after Edge kicks out, Hawkins and Ryder show up. Taker choke slams them onto one another, which I thought that was a pretty cool spot. Taker then turns around into a spear off the distraction, and Edge can't believe that Taker kicks out. Then Edge hits a second spear, but he makes the mistake. He doesn't cover immediately, which gives Undertaker the opening to lock in Hell's Gate. Edge can't get to the ropes. He gets about a foot or two away from him, but he has no choice but to tap at 23 minutes and 50 seconds. And Taker is your new World Heavyweight Champion. And honestly, the storytelling and the callbacks, everything in this match was just great. And Edge did great work on the back of Undertaker throughout this as well.
Oh, absolutely. And you talked about it. My favorite moment was seeing Charles Robinson's sprint down that ramp. It was so epic to see that. And I think Edge played really well. Like, it made him seem almost invincible. Like, it was almost not guaranteed, but he probably had the best chance of ending the streak because no one was countering Taker like that. Like, almost every major move that Taker tried to do, Edge had a counter for it, and I've never seen that before.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, this match as well as the Flair Michaels match, but I think this match more so than the Flair Michaels match because that gets a lot of love because it's Flair's retirement match in air quotes. But this match doesn't get talked about enough. This is an underrated WrestleMania match.
I'm with you there, 100%. I don't think there's any perfect WrestleManias, but this one definitely needs to be talked about as one of the better ones.
Yeah, I'm going to give the match an A grade. Everything, it was just short of perfect, but it was dang near perfect in my opinion.
Yeah, I gave it an A+. I don't know how much my bias played into that. I said it's my favorite match. At the time, Taker was my favorite wrestler. Favorite feud, so yeah, A+.
Yeah, and Edge at this point, 06 through 08 was his best hit. That was his prime. that was the best Edge we'd ever seen.
Right. And
Especially,
talking about Prime, it was just good to see Taker like that again. Like being able to wrestle, you know?
Because we didn't, like the last few years, we didn't get to really see that all that much. We
No.
got to see kind of a broken down Taker. And it was kind of sad. It was really sad to see because it kind of took away a little bit from the aura that Taker built up until that point. Because it really, all of it all went downhill after WrestleMania 29. He had that match against Punk. And then afterwards, it just went, after the match with Lesnar, just went way down. Because he just was the shell of himself after that match. But looking back at this WrestleMania, I think this doesn't get talked about enough. This WrestleMania is definitely an underrated one. I'm going to give, I don't know if you have an overall grade for this WrestleMania, but I'm going to give it a B+. There's only one unwatchable match in that, and that's the kind of the Playboy match. Batista and Umaga, I thought, could have used a little bit more time. Kane and Chavo, I didn't really mind it all that much. But everything else on this show was really good to great. Taker and Edge and HBK Flair, both matches are that I highly recommend to go out and watch.
Yep, 100%. As I say, I would probably give it averaging it out probably a B+ A.
Yeah,
the highs are really high, not too many lows.
And yeah, this is probably one of the better WrestleManias, I think, in the last decade and a half. Because I watched most. I don't know if I've watched most of them, but from what I've gathered, none of the WrestleManias have been like blow-away WrestleManias since what? WrestleMania maybe 19. 23 was pretty good before that.
So I like 23. I don't know, within the range you said, I would say probably 23, 24.
After that,
it
kind of goes down. But 28 was good as well. Forget about that one too. 28's really good, but we'll get to that at another point. But hope you all enjoyed this review of WrestleMania 24. Coming up next week will be the review of WrestleMania #1. Really looking forward to that. Coming up next week. I've never watched WrestleMania 1. Have you, J.O.?
Never.
So it'll be interesting to watch because it's a lot different than it is now. But make sure to tune in when that drops next week. Hopefully we'll have it up by next Friday. We'll keep you updated on that on the social media. Twitter, my Twitter is SigDaddyWrestle, and Instagram at SigDaddy.Wrestle as well. Facebook, I have this Facebook. It's SigDaddyWrestle on Facebook. Jeremy, where can people follow you at?
Same Twitter, Instagram handle at Jeremy Ordas at ORDS.
All right.
That's really all I have.
But that's really all you have. Hey, that's all good. I'm glad you could come on here and talk about WrestleMania 24. To make this a regular thing, we're going to do this every week now. Hopefully, might have a special guest coming up here soon. A special guest review. I'll be teaming up with another podcast on the podcast, but that's coming up in the future. Coming up next week, WrestleMania 1 review with me, Sig Daddy, Skylar Sig Daddy Sigmund, and Jeremy Ordas. If you want to hear other episodes of the podcast, make sure to check it out on Podbean, Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast and wherever you listen to them. But until next time, this is Sig Daddy signing off. Skylar Sig Daddy Sigmund, that is, and Jeremy. We're saying so long, everybody.
See ya.